The dancing plague of 1518, when Strasbourg couldn't stop grooving. Imagine this. It's the middle of a hot July in 1518, in the city of Strasbourg. Part of the Holy Roman Empire. People are sweating in wool clothes. Bread is stale, water isn't very safe, and then, out of nowhere, your neighbor, Frau Trophia, walks out into the street and starts to dance. At first, you might think, well, good for her. Life's tough. Maybe she just wants to move a little. But the problem is, she doesn't stop. Not after a song, not after an hour, not even after an entire day. She keeps going, and going, and going. Like some medieval version of a possessed Energizer bunny. And that was only the beginning. Welcome to the bizarre, almost unbelievable story of the dancing plague of 1518. One of history's strangest medical mysteries. The outbreak begins. Frau Trophia's one-woman show quickly turned into a group performance. Within a week, dozens joined her in the streets. Twitching, hopping, and stomping. Some waved their arms as though in joy. Others looked like they desperately wanted to stop but couldn't. Eyewitnesses said people danced until their feet bled. Some collapsed from exhaustion. A few even died from strokes or heart attacks. Their bodies unable to keep up with the non-stop movement. This wasn't just a random burst of energy. It was a plague of motion that spread like wildfire. By the end of that summer, historians estimate between 50 and 400 people were swept up in the epidemic of dance. Reports suggest dozens may have died, perhaps as many as 100, though records are frustratingly vague. What did the authorities do? Now, if you or I were running the city, we might think, let's give these poor souls some water, shade, and maybe a nap. But remember, this was the early 1500s. Medieval medicine was, well, let's just say you wouldn't want to try it at home. The city council thought the best cure for too much dancing was more dancing. Yes, really, they hired musicians, set up stages, and even built a dance hall. Thinking the victims just needed to dance it out. Imagine the world's worst public health plan. Doctor, these people can't stop dancing. City official, solution? Let's crank up the music. As you can guess, this didn't help. It only encouraged more movement, and the crisis deepened. Why did they dance? Historians still scratch their heads about what caused the dancing plague. There are several theories. 1. Ergot poisoning. Some suggest the dancers ate bread made from rye infected with a mold called ergot. This mold contains chemicals similar to LSD. In fact, convulsive ergotism was a known medieval affliction, causing spasms and hallucinations. It's a logical first guess, but here's the problem. Ergot usually leads to convulsions, numbness, or gangrene, not semi-coordinated street dancing. 2. Mass hysteria, also called mass psychogenic illness. The people of Strasbourg were under intense stress. Famine, disease, and poverty pressed down on them. Some believed God or saints were punishing them. In this desperate environment, one person's uncontrollable dance might have triggered a contagious psychological reaction. Like yawning, but much, much worse. 3. Religious frenzy. Some records show people believed they were cursed by Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers. And, ironically, of people suffering from nervous disorders. To break the curse, they may have felt compelled to dance until forgiven. Whatever the cause, the result was the same. A city that couldn't stop grooving against its will. Strange episodes from the epidemic. Eyewitness accounts give us both shocking and oddly comical images. Bleeding shoes, people's feet wore down until their shoes were soaked with blood. Imagine the cobblers of Strasbourg muttering, "Great for business, terrible for humanity." The band plays on, musicians were hired to keep up the rhythm. Probably the only time in history where playing the lute was considered a medical treatment. The party ends, sort of, after weeks. The city finally tried a new tactic. They marched the exhausted dancers to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus. There, priests prayed over them, and eventually, the dancing subsided. Whether by rest, faith, or simple collapse, the plague finally slowed down. What we can learn. The dancing plague reminds us that the human body and mind are mysterious, especially under stress. We like to think of disease as viruses and bacteria, but sometimes culture, belief, and psychology can create illnesses just as powerful. And let's be honest, it also reminds us that human problem-solving can be hilariously wrong. Imagine future historians reading about 2020 toilet paper shortages and shaking their heads. Just as we laugh about medieval doctors who genuinely thought Let's hire more drummers to cure the plague. Echoes through history. The Strasbourg outbreak wasn't the only time people danced uncontrollably. Similar dancing manias happened in medieval Europe, though 1518 is the best recorded. Today, some psychologists compare it to episodes of mass hysteria in schools or workplaces, where stress spreads like a virus. So the dancing plague of 1518 wasn't just a freak medieval party. It was a powerful reminder of how fragile and how strange the human mind can be when pushed to its limits. The final step. Picture it, a cobblestone street filled with exhausted townsfolk swaying and stumbling. Drums beating, priests muttering prayers, and doctors shrugging helplessly. The sun sets over Strasbourg, and the music finally stops. Silence falls. The final step was silence, a powerful lesson that sometimes the strangest illness isn't a germ, but the collective burden on the human mind.
It's time to study new words and context. 1. Grooving. Definition: moving rhythmically to music or feeling the beat with enjoyment. Example: the band started playing, and soon everyone in the crowd was grooving to the rhythm. 2. Stale. Definition: no longer fresh, often dry or unpleasant from being left out too long. Example: the bread was so stale that even the birds refused to eat it. 3. Frau. Definition: a German word meaning Mrs. or woman, used as a polite title for a married woman. Example: Frau Schmidt greeted her neighbors warmly as she carried her basket of bread. 4. Possessed. Definition: controlled by an outside force or spirit, or behaving as if one is. Example: he danced like a man possessed, unable to stop moving, no matter how hard he tried. 5. Bizarre. Definition: very strange or unusual, often in a surprising or shocking way. Example: the idea of hundreds of people dancing non-stop seemed utterly bizarre to everyone. 6. Twitching. Definition: making small, quick movements that happen suddenly and without control. Example: her hands were twitching slightly from nervous energy. 7. Stomping. Definition: hitting or pressing down with your foot in a heavy or noisy way. Example: the dancers were stomping their feet so hard that the floor began to shake. 8. Crank up. Definition: to increase the power, volume, or intensity of something. Example: when the crowd started cheering, the DJ cranked up the music even louder. 9. Ergot. Definition: a type of fungus that grows on rye and can cause serious illness if eaten. Example: historians believe that bread contaminated with ergot may have caused strange behavior in medieval times. 10. LSD. Definition: a powerful drug that causes hallucinations and changes in perception. Known scientifically as lysergic acid diethylamide. Example: the chemical in ergot is similar to LSD, which can make people see or feel things that are not real. 11. Convulsive ergotism. Definition: a disease caused by eating ergot-contaminated grain, leading to painful muscle spasms, hallucinations, and convulsions. Example: during the Middle Ages, convulsive ergotism was sometimes called St. Anthony's fire because of its burning pain. 12. Affliction. Definition: something that causes pain, suffering, or hardship. Example: the mysterious dance was seen as an affliction sent from heaven or hell. 13. Convulsions. Definition: sudden, violent movements of the body, caused by muscle contractions, often during illness. Example: the patient's body shook with convulsions before the doctors could calm him. 14. Gangrene. Definition: the death of body tissue, due to loss of blood supply or infection, often causing decay. Example: infected wounds could easily turn to gangrene before the days of antibiotics. 15. Psychogenic. Definition: caused by mental or emotional factors rather than physical illness. Example: doctors believed the illness was psychogenic, spreading through fear and suggestion. 16. Frenzy. Definition: a state of uncontrolled excitement or wild behavior. Example: the crowd moved in a frenzy, shouting and dancing without rest. 17. Cobbler. Definition: a person who makes or repairs shoes. Example: the cobbler worked late into the night, fixing the townspeople's torn shoes. 18. Subside. Definition: to become less intense, to slow down, or to go away. Example: after several weeks, the strange outbreak finally began to subside. 19. Hilariously. Definition: in a very funny or ridiculous way. Example: the doctor's advice to dance it out now sounds hilariously wrong. 20. Freak. Definition: something or someone very unusual, unexpected, or out of the ordinary. Example: the dancing plague was a freak event. That still puzzles historians today. 21. Swaying. Definition: moving slowly back and forth, usually in a gentle or rhythmical way. Example: the exhausted dancers were swaying like trees in the wind. 22. Stumbling. Definition: tripping or losing balance while walking or moving. Example: after days of dancing, the townspeople were stumbling more than dancing. 23. The collective burden. Definition: the shared weight or pressure of stress, fear, or responsibility carried by a group of people. Example: the dancing plague may have been the result of the collective burden of hunger, fear, and despair in the town.
Comprehension questions. 1. Who was the first person reported to start dancing in Strasbourg in 1518? Answer: Frau Trophäa. 2. About how many people were affected by the dancing plague? Answer: between 50 and 400 people, according to historical estimates. 3. What happened to some dancers who could not stop moving? Answer: they collapsed from exhaustion, and some died from strokes or heart attacks. 4. How did the city authorities respond to the outbreak? Answer: they encouraged more dancing by hiring musicians, building stages, and even setting up a dance hall, believing it would dance the sickness out. 5. Why was this response ineffective? Answer: it only encouraged more dancing, making the situation worse instead of stopping it. 6. What is the term used for illnesses spread by stress and psychological pressure rather than germs? Answer: mass hysteria, also called mass psychogenic illness. 7. Which saint did some people believe was punishing the dancers? Answer: Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers and people with nervous disorders. 8. What is ergot and why? Did historians think it might be connected to the plague? Answer: ergot is a mold that infects rye bread and contains LSD-like chemicals. It was linked to convulsive ergotism in the Middle Ages, so some historians thought it might have caused hallucinations and spasms. 9. Why does the ergot theory not completely explain the outbreak? Answer: ergot poisoning usually causes convulsions, numbness, or vomiting, not coordinated street dancing. 10. What eventually helped to end the dancing plague? Answer: the city marched dancers to a shrine of Saint Vitus where priests prayed over them. Combined with exhaustion and collapse, the outbreak eventually stopped. 11. What modern event does the article compare to the absurdity of the city's response? Answer: the 2020 toilet paper shortage during the COVID-19 pandemic. 12. What did eyewitnesses say about the condition of the dancers' feet? Answer: their feet bled and their shoes became soaked with blood from constant movement. 13. What lesson does the article suggest the dancing plague teaches us? Answer: that human health is influenced not only by germs, but also by stress, culture, and the collective mind. 14. How does the author use humor to describe medieval medicine? Answer: by saying medieval medicine was well, you wouldn't want to try it at home, and joking that hiring more drummers was their idea of treatment. 15. What is the final step the author refers to in the conclusion? Answer: the silence after the music stopped, symbolizing the lesson that sometimes the strangest illness comes not from germs, but from the collective human mind under stress.